Hey everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I am your host, Chris Bello, and today I've got Alan Donegan with me. Alan, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. I've been looking forward to this.
Likewise, I know we just chatted last week to kind of get the pre-interview juices flowing, and so I'm really excited. Today's topic is going to be 5 ways to build a business with no debt. And I mentioned the other day that I think this is going to be very important for people who have built a business with the wrong principles in mind. Maybe it'll be a good reminder for some of us as well. So welcome once again. Great to have you here on the show.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I think I've been dying to do this show with you because a lot of business is built on the belief that it takes money to make money and that you've got to get money first. Have you heard that one?
Oh, yes. I still do that sometimes. Like, I'm going to make this money back, right? You do that several times. Sometimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it doesn't come back.
But there's this sort of universal belief that's been created, and it's been created in many ways. You need to get the money first before you do the sales, build the business, launch the thing. And that's what I'm on a mission to defeat around the world, because I think it traps a huge number of people from ever starting.
Absolutely. And just so the audience knows, you're based in the UK with PopUp Business School, correct?
Yes, PopUp Business School is in the UK. I'm actually in Leipzig in East Germany at the moment. My wife and I are nomadic, and we run courses around the world. So the last course PopUp ran was in Colombia. So there was an event there a couple of weeks ago in a social distance manner. Awesome.
And I know you said you traveled quite a bit. And you said last year you taught 3,000 students. Was that the number?
Not just me. That would be a Herculean effort for one man.
The team, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there's a great pop-up team, a group of ladies and gentlemen that put on the events around the world. And there's a franchise in New Zealand and all sorts of people that do it. But yeah, we ran, amazing. I think it was 48 1 to 2 week long events helping just shy of 3,000 entrepreneurs to build businesses.
That's incredible.
And that's the game, is to help people make their own money doing something they love.
Absolutely. It's as the saying goes, teach a man to fish and he'll never go hungry again, right? If you just give the fish, he'll be coming back for another fish in another week or two. So it's helpful to actually give that knowledge where people can become self-sufficient.
You know, that was actually my first pitch when I was launching PopUp Business School, was that exact pitch. I was doing some marketing. I bought some mini, you get the mini fishing rods with a magnet on the end that will pick up mini fish.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, so I bought some of those and sent them out to potential funders saying, stop giving your residents, your local people fish. And let's teach them to fish for themselves. And that was my exact pitch when I was starting up PopUp Business School.
I love that pitch. I actually had a real estate coach, and I would always ask him a question and he would push me and say, I need to teach you how to fish, Chris. I'm going to teach you where to find this. And I'm like, I'm not a detailed person. I don't want to have to remember where to find it. Just tell me, Sure enough.
Just give me the answer.
Yeah. 2 months later, I'd ask the same thing because I didn't remember where it was because I didn't take the time to look. So really excited to talk about today's topic. And I mean, again, leading with revenue, I think, is an idea that I've heard recently, whereas before I would think, it takes money to make money. And so my story goes, I spent a lot of time and money on an invention product, getting a patent and going down the route of creating something before I even had validation. And I mean, I spent like $40,000 US. Now I'm going very lean. I'm like, okay, I'm in something where I can generate, commissions and things like that without any money really, just for my network. And I feel guilty. I won't spend money until the commission check closes. Then I reward myself with bubble tea or something, Like, okay, I deserve this $5 bubble tea because I just cashed a check. So yeah,
So what happened to the $40,000? What happened to that?
That's a great question. So while I do consider it more like a learning lesson and not a complete failure, it ended up becoming something where there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I had a friend, a partner who went in on that with me, and we just continued to put in more money and time, and the manufacturer said, okay, we can do this and maybe it'll work. And we left it at a $2,000 mold flow analysis that was needed, a $2,000 test just to see if the parts are even salvageable. And at that point I was like, $2,000 to hear if I need to scrap this or we can fix it. Let's just pull the cord on it right now. So really the tools sat in a warehouse for about a year. And finally, they asked us to take it out because it was taking up space and we weren't doing anything with it. So my friend just had it shipped to one of his family business warehouses, and it's still in limbo. I've been very focused on real estate, and I kind of cut out the distractions, especially like that one was just sucking time and money. And so I ended up pivoting, but I'd like to come back to that eventually. But of course, I'd have to do that $2,000 test to see if we could even fix it.
Are you able to tell us what the product was?
Yeah, I don't mind sharing. So it's it looks like a shaker bottle, kind of like this, these water bottles, but it actually holds different powders and pills, and it's got compartments inside. I've got a prototype somewhere buried away, where I can't, cry every time I see them. So
the idea is you can sort of take your shake with you when you're going to the gym.
Absolutely.
And then it's got all the different bits in that you can dump it in or take the bits.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a little, I guess, maybe overly complicated, but it looked really cool and it functioned well. And the way it worked is you can turn, this is not it, but you can turn the compartments, and then there's triangular shaped compartments so that whatever pours out of here only comes from one compartment at a time. So you could have up to 5 different powders or different pills. And we had 3D printed things. And so 3D printing is a great way to do, low cost ways of testing and tweaking and coming up with the design. But of course, to mass produce, we needed to do injection molding, which required the investment in tooling. And that is where the money goes. In those huge steel tools, that's what costs $10,000 to $15,000 per mold, I believe. And I think we had 4, and it just added up quickly, and we were overly optimistic, and I had some savings, and, I was working full time at the time, so I had a good job. Now I'm the scrappier entrepreneur. I'm like, nope, not spending that money until I know it's going to have a return, or OPM, other people's money.
Well, that's the bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the bit well, I think there's 2 different versions of OPM, and that's the kind of famous one in real estate. Is using other people's money to do the deal. I think there's a different version in entrepreneurship, because there's getting investors in a business. It's still a form of debt. It's still a form of, they want their money back at some stage. They want a return.
Yes.
The other way to do it, which actually is the fundamental of everything we teach at PopUp, is sell it to the customer. Use the customer's money. And there's so many services where you can sell something before it's created.
Right.
But if you can get someone to pay you for this idea and give you the money first, not only have you validated the idea and proved it and got the cash that will enable you to produce the product. And for me, that's the key to entrepreneurship, is don't build it before you've sold it. Like that's
right. You got to sell
the
it
whole
first.
Piece. Yeah. So if you type in "how do I start a business" onto Google, the number 1 article when I last checked was entrepreneur.com. There was 12 steps to start a business. Do you know what number sales was?
I bet it was like the last step, wasn't it? You do all this stuff, you build the product, and then you go sell it. I bet that's what it was.
It was number 12. It was number 11, sorry. So it was more or less like the last thing.
At the very end, right.
And that just made me think, like,
that's the wrong way to go about it.
This is what we teach people. Like
I must have read that article. When I started, I must have read that.
Yes. Design the product, get feedback, build the website, print the business cards. Yeah. Do all of that stuff. Did you have business cards?
I did. I had really nice business cards. I got the Moo ones that were like 50 cents each. Oh, they're so nice. I don't even want to throw them away. I have those too somewhere.
I feel like, and I'm going to say this to your audience now, I feel like that is a sign that it's all going wrong. If you printed business cards,
before
it's not going to work. Product. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think business cards should be reward after your first $20,000 of sales. They shouldn't be. Awesome. Yeah. I've arrived in the game. Look, I've got a business now. I've got a card. Woo.
Right. So this is going to be really helpful to people in the audience who are wanting to start something new, because now I understand that, don't even waste time with business cards, a pretty website, a logo. Go out and get some deals, do some business, and then you can figure that stuff out. And I know it's a little bit of the chicken and the egg conversation, right? It's like, well, they're going to want to see my website. If I don't have one, I don't look credible.
Well, they're not necessarily.
Right.
Like people don't, immediately go, where's your website? I need to verify you online. That's not how it works.
Right.
And it depends on what you're selling and how you're selling it. But if someone's looked you in the eyes and they trust you, they're willing to buy from you. The only time they want to go, okay, show me your website, show me your business plan, show me your CV, show me your testimonials, is when they don't trust you. And the fundamental to sales is trust.
So true.
If someone trusts that you're going to deliver what you say you'll deliver, they don't care if you've got a logo. They don't care if you've got a website. They care, are you going to deliver and help me fix my problem? That's what they care about. And if you came to me and said, Alan, like, I know what your problem is, I can fix it, and I believed in you, would I have a problem paying you to do it?
No. That's so true. I mean, I do that all the time. People tell me they can do stuff, and I have a referral, or I trust somebody who gave me that person. And oftentimes they're very under the radar. It's like they almost aren't even trying to sell because they get referral business that supports them and sustains them. And I trust them and I pay them, and I'm happy with the services.
You are exactly right. And actually, that's what we're trying to do as new entrepreneurs. And look, I'm getting a bit harsh on you and people now.
Oh, no, please do.
The only reason I am...
tough love.
The only reason I am is because I did exactly the same. It's not like I haven't made all of these mistakes myself. And
Right.
I just want to say to everyone who's listening to this, don't make the same mistakes Chris and I made. Learn from us. And then you can go out and make new mistakes.
Smarter
mistakes. We can all learn together. Well, just new ones, because we're all going to make dumb mistakes as we go. We need all these things in place to get the sale. And basically what we're trying to do is put all of this stuff in place, logo, website, business cards, all of this stuff in place to go, look, I'm a bona fide business. I'm a company. I'm a proper human being. Trust me. That's what we're trying to do. And what we forget is, like, well, I would ask you the question, do you care about all those things when you're buying from someone else?
I don't. And I thought that I did.
It depends what you're buying, but yeah, in most instances, not normally.
Right. And I guess, like you said, it depends, because, I mean, for goods and services on something like Amazon, I mean, there's the trust of the brand and there's the return policy and things like that, insurance on products. And so there's some kind of trust there where if I buy something and it becomes broken, I'm going to get it replaced. It's not going to be like, whoa, there's no customer service line for me to call and I'm stuck with this broken package. But I guess if it's something like a high ticket service, or I guess maybe even like a real estate agent, you'd probably want to do a little bit of research, because that's a pretty big transaction. A lot of money's on the line potentially.
In normal times, you'd want to look them in the eye and shake their hand. In current times, we might not want to shake their hand, but we would at least look at them through Zoom and go, are you who I think you are?
Right.
And check them out a bit. But quite often the human interaction element, we as a species place far more weight on the human interaction piece than we do the quality of your graphics. Mm-hmm. And if you can get that right, if you can connect at that level, it's unbelievable what you can achieve.
I firmly believe that. But of course, if you are a graphic design company, I'm thinking of one guy I know, and his website's beautiful. His cards are perfect, because I'm like, man, if those aren't good, what is it going to do for you?
Yes. If your business is graphic design, then you should probably get yourself some decent graphics. Definitely.
Get those Moo cards that I got, but, for yourself. It's too funny.
So I guess let's just tackle one of the fundamental things we talk about. People think entrepreneurship is risky. Do you think entrepreneurship is risky, Chris?
I think everything's got risk, right? There's risk tied to staying in a job that you might not be happy with. Is that the right answer? You can control the levels of risk, let's say that, if you make the right decisions that we're talking about here today.
Well, I think it is risky, but what you can control is you can choose what type of risk.
Right.
And what I mean by that is when you launched your, what should we call it, the Beaker business? When you launched that...
supplement, I don't know, organizer. I don't even know what I was calling it. Just an invention.
Sounds great. When you launched the invention business, you chose financial risk.
Right.
So you said, I've got cash. I'm going to throw my cash into it and I'm going to see if it works. You also chose time risk, but that was pretty much it. If it didn't work, your money was gone and your time was gone. That was it. But those are the risks you chose. Most people think that entrepreneurship is incredibly risky because they think they have to put a lot of money in first to be able to build that business. And you can choose what type of risk you take by doing it differently. So you might choose to risk energy. Mm-hmm. You might choose to risk time. You might choose to risk reputation.
Right.
You might choose to risk money. But you get to choose your risk depending on how you do it. And that's the bit I think that people don't really realize when they're going into this business, because there's this standard narrative that when you're launching a business, you have to do it a certain way. So you must, I'm sure your listeners don't fall into this trap, but if they've come up, is that the cat trying to climb on your leg?
That's the cat.
Chris?
Yes, you can hear the cat. Here she comes. She likes to sit on my lap. Okay, I think she'll be happy now.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, there she goes. We were talking about risking time, reputation, money.
Yes, and the standard narrative, I'm sure your listeners wouldn't do this, but if you say, I've got a business idea, what's the first thing people normally tell you to do when you say, I've got a business idea?
I'm just thinking of the advice that I heard is you build your website, your business cards, trademark a logo, spend money and invest in your brand, I guess. I mean, I did all those things up front personally.
Yeah, and so did I when I first started. I spent a lot of money on a brand. I did this stuff. Before I did that, I did write a business plan.
Business plan,
the fabled business plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't even really do that.
Business plan, invest all the money, then eventually you sort of buy all the product, buy all the stuff, and then the last step is getting out there to sell it to see if it works. That's what people tell you to do. And there's this, it comes from education, it comes from the startup advice that was about for a long, long time, but people believe that is the only way to build a business. And so they get into that locked path of, I'm going to start, business plan, borrow the money, do the branding, the trademarking, the copywriting, do all that stuff. And they forget there's so many different ways to start a business. And before you go down the path that everyone else has trodden, it's worth thinking through, how might I start? What are the different ways? And I guess that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
What are the different ways to get going? And for me, the fundamental concept is something called a mini experiment.
I love that.
Have you heard of mini experiments?
Mini experiments, kind of like just testing a hypothesis.
Yeah, exactly. Let's test a hypothesis. Let's see if it works. So if I was doing your beaker invention, your supplement rotation device, we'll come up with a good name for it in a minute. If I was doing that, the way I would do a mini experiment is, I don't know if this would work. You said you were doing some on 3D printing and you were starting to get some designs. I go, okay,
Yes.
I've got one 3D printed. I've got some designs. I'm going to put up a one-page website. I'm not going to spend money doing it. I'm going to do the website myself. I might get some friends to help me with the graphics.
Right.
I might trade some skills, do some stuff. I'd put it out there and I'd say, this is the product we're thinking of doing. This is what we're going to be launching. It's coming soon. If you want to be first to hear when the launch is announced, put your email address in here. And then I would promote it to real customers that I think it needs. If after 2 weeks of promoting, no one has put their email address in, what do you know?
It may not be something that people are wanting or needing.
And that would be the end of the mini experiment.
Yes.
And you go, okay, I need to test something else. If you've promoted it and you've got that page in front of 100,000 people and you've got 1,000 email addresses saying, when it comes out, tell me, what does that tell you?
Yeah, you've got some validation.
Something. There's maybe something there. Like, it's still, you've promoted it a lot to get 1,000 email
100,000 people.
1,000 email addresses, like, there's something there. Let's figure out what we do next. But that's the key to the mini experiment. is to launch it and see if anyone takes it. Now, the ideal mini experiment, let's say, Chris, most people, when they come up with an idea for a business, so you come up with an idea for whatever it is. Let's take your exact thing. I've come up with an idea for a beaker thing. Who do most people go and tell about their ideas when they first come up with it?
Friends and family, probably, or yes. Right? Who will give them the advice that, oh, this is great, even if it's not.
So let's imagine for a second that you're one of my best friends. Feel free to reject me again afterwards. It's okay. It's just a thought experiment. And I come to you and say, Chris, I've come up with this thing. It's got a rotation device. You can have the different bits in it. I do my sales pitch. What do you think?
Your friends or family would probably tell you what you want to hear, even if it's not something that they think, like, oh, it looks great. I'm sure it's going to do well. Or they might give you advice that, it maybe is not qualified. Oh, you should change this. I can't tell you how many people, when I had that idea, like, oh, you should change this. You should do this. What if you add this feature? What if you make another one that does this? You're going to get a lot of confusing bits of feedback, let's just say. Yes.
So on that particular point, it depends if they would ever be your customer as to whether you would listen to them. Right. So if you've got your 90-year-old granny giving you advice on what would work well for a bodybuilder in a gym, it's probably like you need to get the advice from someone else.
Yes.
The other bit is if they tell you it's great, like, that's so lovely, well done. Is that good feedback?
Right. Or is it biased? I mean, are they just telling that to you because they're your mother? Of course,
it's definitely biased. Yeah.
Everything's great.
What you should do at that point is lean in and go, okay, so you think it's great. It's $30. Would you like to buy one?
Yeah, I love this. You guys have to watch this on YouTube if you're watching the video. You're like right next to the camera. Lean in, literally. Get in their face.
You lean in, get in their face and ask them if they buy. When you ask someone to pull their money out of their pocket, that is the only moment of truth you will get.
Yes.
Up until you ask for the cash, they will be nice to you. And that doesn't help you and it doesn't help them. So stop asking for feedback and start asking for money, because that is the only way you will know if your business will ever be successful or not.
Right. That's so true. And I mean, business owner friends of mine, I like to vote with my dollar, right? I like to actually support them. And I understand now that that's the best way. I don't want to ask them if they can give me a discount because I value their time and their services and their expertise, it's something that it takes some time, because people think, oh, I'm your friend or family, you should give me a discount, right? But that's like not showing them how much you truly appreciate them in a way. So I love that people have to vote with their dollar. That's the only way they really do show support in that they like whatever it is that you have to offer.
Absolutely. And if people are paying you for what you do, you have a business.
Yes.
If no one will pay you for what you do, don't print business cards to make it better. That's not going to help.
Right.
Have another mini experiment, have another go. And I think that's the thing I'd love to give your listeners today is test the idea before you've put everything in place, because otherwise you're wasting all the money in the setup stuff. So if you do that mini experiment and put it out to the world and you get 1,000 email addresses, that might give you confidence to then go, I'm going to produce the first prototype, or I'm going to run a Kickstarter campaign and get the money to produce the first prototype, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. If you get 0 email addresses, you have saved a fortune. You put $40,000 into this. You could have saved all of that by doing the mini experiment first. And the only reason I get so passionate about this is because do you know how many people end up in debt over this stuff?
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, you see it on shows like Shark Tank. I put my life savings in here. I like mortgage the house. I'm like, I hope this works out.
I don't know this year's stat, but a couple of years ago, 1 in 55 houses in America went bankrupt. And I just find that shocking. And entrepreneurship is a sexy, exciting subject at the moment. And people like to go, I've got a startup, I'm investing in this, I'm doing this. It's sexy and exciting, but it's dangerous.
It is.
And if you are risking money, if you're borrowing money on a credit card to do this stuff, I just like, for any of your listeners, Chris, if any of your listeners are thinking about going into debt, start a business, send them my way. I will shake them and tell them not to do it.
Yeah.
So let's do this. 5 ways to start a business with no debt. We've done enough setup, haven't we?
We've learned a lot already. I mean, this is a conversation, like I said, I wish I had 4 years ago. It would have saved me a lot of time, heartache, and money as well.
I wish someone had sat me down right at the start and done this. Yes. And a couple of people tried to in different ways, but never in such a concise manner.
Right.
Number 1.
I'm going to write these down too.
There are so many things you don't need to spend money on that you can get for free. And I think the number 1 is, what can you get for free instead of spending money? So if you're building a website, are there free website builders?
Yes.
Are there free logo designers that are good enough to get you going?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's so many different things you can get for free if you want to. I think it's actually laziness spending money, because I'll throw some money at the problem. I'll hire a designer, I'll hire this, I'll hire that. It's laziness. And I think if you do it yourself, not only do you save money, but you also get valuable insights and learning that will help you to be more successful in the long run. And I think spending money is a substitute for energy and creativity. And I would challenge every one of your listeners to put their energy and creativity into it, and they will get far greater returns. And you know what? When you've sold a few, you can hire a designer to update the logo.
Right.
But do that from profit, not from debt.
Exactly.
So that's number 1, get it for free. Number 2, what can you borrow? So many times we as entrepreneurs think, I need my own version of this to be able to start up. Mm-hmm. I need a printing machine. I need a 3D printer. I need this. I need an office. I need a building. I need this. I need that. Like all this stuff that I need. Well, to start with, can you borrow it? And that would be my challenge to every single person that is listening, is there a way you can borrow an office space, work in a garage, borrow a team of people to help you? Like, classic example, there was a lady who came along to our course. She was a singer and she wanted to do her first album, and she wanted a producer and a session in a recording studio to create it. She was all ready to go. Apart from that, that's what she needed the money for.
Did she have a good voice? No, I'm just kidding. You need that too, right?
She sounded good to me, but then I'm not the most acoustically minded. We'll come back to that because there's an interesting.
I'm sorry. Point. I don't want to distract you from your train of thought.
So what she needed was the recording studio. Mm-hmm. So the question is, can you borrow a recording studio? Who's going to have one lying about? And you think, well, are there friends who've got the kit at home? Is there this? Is there that? Mm-hmm. And I said to her, well, is there a local university around here?
Oh, yeah. It's a great idea.
She said, yes. They've got a media class. And I said, well, I wonder if they've got the kit. She rang them up. She spoke to them. They did have a recording studio and all of the equipment. She asked to borrow it. Do you know what the university said?
Yes. Or you have to be a student or know a student, maybe. They
said, the only condition on you borrowing the studio is you must use our students so that they can gain experience for their portfolio.
That's
so
totally,
they forced her to have free labor with
great.
The recording studio.
Yep. So you were saying that they forced her to actually use the students in free labor. Pretty incredible.
Which enabled her to get her first album produced, and then she was off to the tracks and started selling. So if you can't get it for free, can you borrow it? And what I want you to do is, you and your audience, is to think about these different things as a menu to go through. So before you spend any money, number 1, can you get it for free? If you can't get it for free, can you borrow it? And have a look round. It's unbelievable the resources that are available around you that are underutilized. There are empty buildings. There are underutilized kits. There are production centers. There's unbelievable amount of resources lying around if you ask.
And
but
you have
most
to
people
become
are too
resourceful.
embarrassed to
Yes,
ask.
you have to become resourceful because, I mean, it's not a lack of resources. It's just a lack of resourcefulness. That's a quote that I've heard. I think Tony Robbins. Love that.
Me too. Absolutely. Which then leads us on. If you can't get it for free or borrow it, can you barter for it? And actually, that's what all of our economies were originally built on, is if I produce chickens and you produced, I don't know, whatever it is, flour, and someone else produced tomatoes, we would all have to barter and swap. We wouldn't use money in the middle. But we kind of lost those skills in a lot of ways.
We have.
So what I'd be saying to you is, can you swap the skills you've got for what you need to start your business? Classic example of this, when I was first starting up, I didn't have very good marketing skills. I'd not studied, I'd not learnt, it was not a skill I had. So I actually went to a marketing agency, and I actually approached quite a few and said, can you help me with your marketing? My business at the time, I ran presentation skills training courses. And I said, I will train your staff if you help me with your marketing. And we did a swap. No money changed hands. They created my postcards for a mailing list, helped me come up with my marketing strategy, all of that stuff. And I run training courses for their staff.
That's awesome.
And you don't have to use money. There are ways to do it in different ways.
Right. And I just think about that. I see so many friends do that where, hey, you build my website and I'll do the marketing for you, create the flyers, because maybe they have the printers and the equipment to print all the flyers, and you've got the coding school experience to actually build the websites. And of course, like you said, today's day and age, there's so many free resources. I love that. So what can you get for free? What can you borrow? And then can you barter for it? So this is a very lean startup approach instead of spend money up front.
Yes.
You're asking the right questions.
Absolutely. I guess it's the practical version of the lean startup, because it is actually, how do you implement this stuff? Because lean startup has some wonderful theories, but the question is, how do you actually deliver it? And here's the practical steps to getting going. And then the fourth, this one is probably less relevant to your audience, but I'm going to deliver it to you anyway. It's just good to have more options when you're starting up. Number 4 is, what can you sell? Like, sometimes you do need a little bit of money to buy that first prototype, to design that first thing. What can you sell to be able to get started rather than going into debt? So have a look around your house. Do you have a bunch of DVDs that you don't use? Do you have a bunch of books? It's unbelievable what people have lying around their houses.
Yeah.
I know I did. Last summer, my wife and I tidied out our spare room. It was full with stuff. I made £1,000, so about $1,300, just selling old phones, old board games, just stuff. And
sitting around there.
Yeah, just lying around. And the reason I say this is where we came up with this strategy. We had a lady called Esha who came along to the course in Birmingham we were running, and she wanted to do a mobile beautician business. And she needed one of those sort of fold-out massage chairs, with a hole in the end, tables. So you fold out the tables, got the hole in the end, a mobile one of those. And the price was a couple of $100. But she didn't have the money to get it. She'd been stuck for a long time. So we said, well, what have you got lying around the house that you can sell? And she said, well, in the spare room, I've had it for some time. I've got a running machine. I don't use it. I just put clothes over it. She looked a bit embarrassed. I said, it's fine. Let's sell it. So we got it on eBay. We sold it. We sold a couple of other bits, and we had the money to get her the table to then be able to go. And that's all it took to unlock her to being able to start her business. But sometimes it's difficult to find the money up front to be able to get going. So have a look around the house and see what you can sell. Do a garage sale, do a car boot sale, sell everything. Preferably not the kids, but that's a last resort.
Hey, if you need to be lean, right? Get rid of the things that eat so much food.
Says the man with 3 pets.
Yes, I had to lock all of them away because they're all making noises. And the yard guy's here too, which is great.
No, so I'm only kidding about that. But there are unbelievable amounts of resources in your house just lying around that you aren't using. Not only will you feel better clearing out your place, but it'll also generate some revenue, and you're getting going from some money you've made rather than money you're going into debt for. So that's number 4.
Absolutely.
And number 5, we actually started with, which this is for me, the number 1 principle is sell your value before you create it. And what I mean by that is sell the item before you've even built it. So I'll give you a couple of examples. First off, let's take my own business. The PopUp Business School is a 2-week-long course on entrepreneurship to help people start businesses without debt. How much of the course, Chris, do you think I wrote before I sold it?
I'm sure just the sales page, right? You didn't write any of the course until you sold it. I'm doing that now too, by the way. I got smart this time.
Exactly. I didn't write anything. I found someone who had the problem I was going to fix. And I went and pitched them the idea and said, here's the idea. What do you think? Luckily, they said yes, and they bought it. And then I wrote the course that I delivered for them. If they had said no, there's no way I would have written a course.
Right.
And you would not believe how many people I've met who have written the course, written the book, created the thing, and it sat in their garage at home, just sat there waiting to be sold.
Absolutely.
Like, stop doing that and go and talk to a real life customer.
Right. And it's funny because, I mean, just what you said, I mean, my story, for example, my audience who's listened to the previous episodes, they'll know of the product and the invention and the money and patent and trademark. And there's another company with the same name, and we had to talk to them. I mean, I paid attorney fees for all this stuff for a name that I have trademarked that I never used. Right. So that was the thing, because I had the money, but not the time. I had a full-time career. And now I had the time, and then I blew through the money. So I had time and no money. But before I had money and no time, or I had time, but I had more limited time. So now I'm doing the similar thing. I have a course that I'm launching to real estate agents. And my dad was asking oh, this looks great. Oh, did you make the course already? How's the course? I'm haven't made it yet. I'm waiting for some sales, and then I will make the course, which is another way of thinking about it. Because like you said, sell your value before you create it. That's probably the most important thing for a lot of people right now on this podcast who are listening. They're trying to go and create something first and find if there's even a market for it. And they're doing all the research and making the slides and the PowerPoints and the business cards, when it should really be go find the customers, find the solution to their problem, pitch it. And when you have some people who are willing to put an email down or maybe even prepay up front, then you actually go through the motions of creating and delivering on it.
You will learn more in an hour conversation with a real life customer than you will in 2 weeks of Googling.
Yes.
Go talk to real customers.
I love that. Validation. And there's stories of that too. I think the things that don't scale are the things you have to do. I remember hearing the stories of the startups like Airbnb, where the founders would go fly to the people using Airbnb. They were the photographers at the beginning because they wanted feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? How can we make this better? Instead of just trying to, I'm sure startups are probably a bad example, especially if they raise money. I know a lot of them spend a lot of money on things that, a scrappy entrepreneur may not do necessarily. So maybe all those lessons are not quite applicable here.
Well, I think this is actually where it gets confusing, because you have people, and I love Tim Ferriss, don't get me wrong, but you have podcasts like his that talk about venture capital backed giant startups.
Right.
And people get very confused and they think, I should run my startup just like Airbnb that raised X million dollars to be able to get going. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, no, you do not have that kind of resource set to be able to do it. And we have to come at it with a different mentality. And I think this is where people get very confused, and they start to see there's one rule for entrepreneurship. And there is not one rule for entrepreneurship, because we're all starting different businesses in different ways at different times of life with different resources. And there's got to be different ways of doing it. And you should not be copying exactly what Airbnb did, especially not if your aim is to build a business the size of Airbnb. Most of us don't want to do that. I don't want a business with thousands and thousands and thousands of staff, Chris. I just want to make good money, help people, and live a nice life. That's it. I don't need to build the next IPO. I don't need any of that. And I think we get very confused by trying to copy the biggest successes out there. And a lot of the learnings just aren't applicable to someone who is launching a hairdressing business, a photography business, an art business, doing an online course business. It's just a different ball game. And I think that's where our focus should be, is working out what we need to do on our small business to grow it, to make some money, to bring in some sales quickly, and to create a business that will support our families.
Absolutely. And I think something extremely important there is to know what you want up front. Do you want to have a huge company with thousands of employees in IPO, or are you looking to make good money, have a nice life, have flexibility, and help people? I think you said 3 things, but that's exactly what I wanted as well. But of course, getting crystal clear on what does that mean? What does that look like? How much money am I making? How little work am I doing? I told someone the other day, like, I'm trying to make the most money by doing the least physical work possible. Like, I want to help and make impact, but I want to have systems and people in place where I can deliver the value and I don't have to do as much of the actual tedious stuff in between. I've got people to handle the paperwork, right? For real estate transactions, buying or selling properties, for example. I'm not filling in all the papers. I'm checking it, before to give it my blessing, but I just want to be doing Zoom calls with clients that are excited to buy or sell a house. And that's it. That's my wheelhouse. So knowing what you want, what does that look like? That's very important for sure.
Absolutely. So if I could kind of summarize what I've said, I think that for all of you out there, if you've got a business idea, then come up with the minimum viable thing that you can sell, run a mini experiment, and see if people will buy. If you get customers, you've got a business, go fulfill the orders. If you don't get the customers, you've got feedback that something is wrong. Price, product, promotion, something is wrong, and you can have a tweak, have a play, run another mini experiment and see what happens. If you've done that a few times, then your idea might not be that good and you might want to try something else, but just run some mini experiments and test to work out which of these businesses you're going to do. And your average entrepreneur fails multiple times with their first businesses. So what we like to say is, you're probably going to fail the first few times, so let's get it over with quickly and without going into debt.
Yes.
So fail fast and fail cheap. That's exactly what we do. If it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong very quickly, and I'm not going to have spent much money. I will learn, and then I'll have another go. And that's what I'd say to everyone listening. If you do that, you'll avoid going into debt, going into bankruptcy, and all the problems other people face. And if it goes right, you'll have made some money and built a business, and then we can celebrate together.
I love that. So just for the audience, I wrote these down, but I'd like to just go over the 5 steps one more time. So what can you get for free? That's number 1. Number 2, what can you borrow? Number 3, can you barter for it? 4, what can you sell? Things that you may have laying around the house that you could sell to help invest in something that you think is critical, for example, for your business. And then 5th, sell your value before you create it. That that's what I wish I had heard before, but of course it might not have registered back then, but now it makes so much sense. Because it makes sense to some to, why not create it? How are you going to sell something you don't have? Now it's a different way of looking at it. Sell it, sell the vision, sell the idea, sell what you're able to teach. And then when you have the validation, take it and run.
Absolutely. I mean, Chris, if you can sell a house without it ever being built, you can sell pretty much anything without ever being built. Have you ever done that where you've looked around a blank piece of land and they've got a drawing and go, okay, you're walking through the lounge, that'll be the fireplace. Right. And then if you do the pitch properly, you go, and this will be the bay window, and people will look up and look out the window.
Picture that.
Yeah. Like if you can sell a house without it existing, like
That's cool.
what else is possible? Like stop putting excuses in place and just get out there and make it happen.
Absolutely. Something that I heard recently said, we get bigger answers when we ask bigger questions. So sometimes we're just not asking the right questions. And that's why we're not getting the answers, because we're thinking too small. I wrote that reminder for myself just yesterday. I wrote think bigger with a light bulb. Like, see, think bigger. And I put surround yourself with winners, meet millionaires consistently, stretch your beliefs of what is possible. Because I sometimes find, am I setting big enough goals for 2021? Am I thinking too small? Because you only see what's in front of you. But if you get around other people like yourself, Alan, who can help you ask those right questions, wow, you could have just saved 3 years of my life right there.
One thing I'd love to just add on your think bigger, because I think that's a piece of advice that's given a lot of times.
Yes.
I just add a little bit that goes along with it, which is think bigger.
I'm going to write it down.
Start smaller.
Oh, that's powerful. Start smaller. Because the thing is, if you think big and you want to do big, pay the money, get the trademark, get the patent on the product, right?
And it can be paralyzing because you've got such a big idea, you don't know where to begin.
Yes.
The key is think big, but just start small. Just do one thing today. Speak to one customer, send one email, start the first page of the website,
right.
Get it going. And I think big is fabulous advice and has a downside without that little think big, start small.
Thank you for that addition, because I do have think bigger here. And I just wrote that here, start smaller. I mean, great advice again. I mean, I'm just kicking myself back then where I'm like, I remember that when I had to take out the like $38,000 and transfer it to write a cashier's check I was like, oh, this is where I felt it. My account just went to zero on my mutual funds. And I was like, oh, I hope this thing works. And so now it's such a better feeling when I can start smaller. I'm getting validation. I have a cool landing page. I've got people who are interested that are jumping on webinars before I have anything, just because I shifted exactly how I approached it. And I started adding value and showing people what I know instead of trying to sell or trying to create something without even having the audience fit. So Alan, thank you once again for all these great tips. I love it.
I think I'd love to pick up on one small thing you said in that closing statement, which was with the original business, you took the 38,000 out and then you said, I hope
this works.
And you're there with your fingers crossed going, I hope this works. The thing I'd love to say to your audience is there is no hope. Like, stop hoping. That's not going to make it happen. And what Chris is actually doing with his new venture is he's selling. And selling creates income and customers and products and business, and things happen. And if you do that, you don't have to hope the sales coming in because you've got them and then you can deliver. So stop hoping and start selling.
That's another powerful paradigm shift. Alan, man, I'm going to have to go through this, take some notes and listen to it again. Again, I mean, it's amazing. You can learn something at every stage. And even if I were to listen to this 5 years from now, it would still ring true, and maybe I'd have another paradigm shift,
different
right? Like,
levels.
It's like listening to or reading a fortune cookie. Anytime in your life, it's going to apply to something. And so I can't wait for those in the audience to listen to this message and really take it to heart, and maybe save a lot of time, heartache, and money in the process of building their startup, their venture, their business, whatever it is that they pursue.
Me too. And that is my aim. That's my aim in life, is to help people avoid the mistakes I've made so that they can get on with their life, make more progress, and make some new mistakes, and then we can learn together.
Absolutely. History repeats itself. So, I mean, if we can learn from different people's mistakes, save ourselves a lot of time and headache, that is the way to go for sure. So, Alan, thank you once again for jumping on here. I know we're at the end of our time here today. Where can our audience go to learn more about you, to dive into your world, and to check out your business and all the things that you guys are doing globally?
Thank you, Chris. So if they want to find out more about us, the live courses, they can find at PopUp Business School. So just Google that with the only thing that comes up. If they want to hear more about our crazy entrepreneurship ideas, we've got the Rebel Entrepreneur podcast. And then finally, if they just type my name into Google, my own personal blog comes up, which has lots of ideas about entrepreneurship and financial independence and all of that stuff. So like just Google me, I appear.
That's a great feeling when you start to pop up on page 1 of Google. I mean, it's very satisfying. So Alan, thank you once again. Everyone, I'm going to drop the links to connect with Alan.
And it's frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen. Oh, there you are.
It froze for a second. We're back. Yeah.
I'm going to drop all the links to connect with you in the show notes so everyone can easily go over there if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And Alan, I can't wait to connect with you again. I think maybe I'll get to jump on your show here soon, and we'll talk about that here after I hit stop record.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Thank you for having me on the show, and good luck with everyone. Get out there and start making it happen.
And think bigger, but start smaller today.
Hell yes.
Thank you.